So let's talk about the news today with B2 taking off again and how that affects Whiteman. That was something whenever you were running that you
Hold
were
on just 1 second. Hold on.
Yeah.
We had some phones on here. Hold on.
It's all right.
Got it. Okay. Start over again.
Yeah, you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So when you were running, you were talking about getting on Armed Services Committee. That was important to you and how Whiteman is impacted by that. You did get on Armed Services Committee, and now B2 is back in the air starting today. Tell me about the impact of that and what you're thinking about that decision.
Well, as you know, Whiteman Air Force Base, home of the B-2 stealth bomber, is critically important to our nuclear triad. Since December, January, there's been a safety stand down because of some landing gear issues with one of the B-2s, possibly two. They have now identified that issue. They have worked on a fix for that issue. And today, Monday, the 22nd, the B-2 will be fully operational again, able to fly out of Whiteman Air Force Base. I want to make very clear, though, to your viewers that at all times, had the president needed the B-2 for any reason, it is fully capable and fully lethal as part of our nuclear deterrent. And so there was never any issue regarding our ability to be a deterrent using our nuclear triad, but this was simply a way to almost modernize the B-2 in some aspects to where we can be fully operational at any given time.
Tell me about Whiteman's place right now in our military effort, because that was something you and I talked about when you were running, and that was something you were very interested in. What is Whiteman's role in addition to the B-2, if anything at all? Tell me about how Whiteman fits into our overall military effort.
Well, Whiteman has a long history of being a air military base since even before World War II. It has been home to a fighter wing and is home to the bomber wing at Whiteman Air Force Base. We have the MQ-9 drone. We have the Black Hawk helicopters. We also have the A-10 Warthog, which is a legacy aircraft, which is going to be phased out by 2028. We're hoping to get a new fighter wing there to accompany the mission there. But it's also home to the B-2 stealth bomber. Right now, we have 19 to 20 that are fully operational and capable of being a nuclear deterrent against communist China, as well as other forces. You saw them use in conventional weaponry in Afghanistan and Iraq most recently. But they don't just fly over Arrowhead Stadium. They are a very important part of deterring the pacing threat from communist China. As we move forward in the military scenario, we are going to be bringing in the B-21, which is currently being built now in Palmdale, California. Whiteman Air Force Base is a very important part of this because we're second on the list to get the new B-21s. The B-21 will make its first flight sometime this year. That's classified. I was out there last month and saw firsthand and actually got to touch the B-21. You know, the B-2 is 40-year-old technology, and while there have been some modernization to that aircraft over the years, B-21 is the next level of aircraft that we need to be an effective deterrent. And so we're building 100 of those to start out with. It could go up to 147. There's a Air Force base in South Dakota that will get the first round of those, the first wave of those, Ellsworth Air Force Base. Whiteman Air Force Base is considered the second wave, the preferred site for the B-21, and we're doing everything we can within our power to make sure that Whiteman Air Force Base does get the second wave of B-21s and grows the program there.
Switching topics, how confident are you that the U.S. debt ceiling is going to be something that we get a deal on before the end of the month?
Taylor, if you were to ask me 3 or 4 weeks ago, I would say not very confident. You know, we did our job. We passed a debt ceiling raise in Congress of $1.5 trillion. In exchange for that, we wanted about $5 trillion over the next 10 years in clawbacks of unused COVID money, repeal the 87,000 IRS agents, and some other things, trimming the fat off the president's bloated budget. This forced the president to finally sit down with Speaker McCarthy. He did it before he left for Japan. Today, Monday, the 22nd, he is sitting down with Speaker McCarthy again at the Oval Office, and I'm confident that we're going to reach a deal for the American people. This is too important not to compromise on both sides to reach a deal that's good for the American people.
I want to ask you about that unused COVID money, because I've read some things about that and I've seen different conversations about that. Can you give me some more insight into exactly what kind of money are you asking cities, municipalities, counties to return money they haven't used? Where's
No.
that COVID money, and where's that coming from?
I'm glad you asked that. This in no way is asking for a refund from municipalities, cities, or states, the ARPA money that the federal government distributed over the last 2 years. This is money that has not left the federal treasury, that was appropriated for states and cities, but has not left the treasury because it's not been claimed by those particular entities. And so we're saying if it hadn't been used, why use it now? COVID has been declared over, the pandemic declared over by the president. And so we need to recapture this money for the good of the American people.
We have, we expect a couple of different new names in the presidential race coming out this week. We expect Tim Scott sometime in the next hour, senator from South Carolina. We expect Ron DeSantis later this week. Have you made an official announcement or decided what you're going to do? I know that President Trump endorsed you whenever you were running. Do you intend to endorse him? Have you already? What is your outlook for the presidential race moving forward?
Look, we are still 18 months out from the next presidential election. As you know, President Trump endorsed me after I won the primary here in the 4th Congressional District. I was very honored to get his call to do so. I am willing to support the nominee of this party, whoever that might be. And we'll see if before then, if we end up endorsing everyone we'll see before that process plays out if we end up endorsing anyone. Right now, very few people have declared candidacy. We're thinking this week that DeSantis will, and Tim Scott as well.
I want to go back to debt ceiling for a moment, because if this were to happen, I know you said you're confident that you don't think that's going to be is going to be the situation. You feel confident that there's going to be a deal before the end of the month. If it were to happen, what kind of recourse, what kind of options do people have if they're directly impacted? If there are people who are used to getting monthly payments from the government that all of a sudden those dry up, what's going to be available to people starting in June if that is an option?
Well, look, Taylor, I've been through this many times as a journalist, a reporter, and anchor, and it seems like this happens the same way every time, where the federal government gets down to the very last minute. I don't want to be too political, but this is really the modus operandi for the Democrats to create a crisis like they did with the omnibus bill last year and get everyone stirred up and all these scare tactics. And so you're forcing the other side into a position. That's not the way we need to operate government. This should have started 100 days ago when the president of the United States promised Kevin McCarthy that he was going to negotiate. The president was a month late in turning in his budget and 101 days late in meeting with Kevin McCarthy. And now it's put us in a situation where Janet Yellen has established a really arbitrary date of June 1st. That's 10 days from today, Monday the 22nd. To get a deal done, or we default. I don't think it's going to come down to that. We are not going to sacrifice in any way Social Security, Medicare, or VA benefits. No matter what the Democrats tell you, those are off the table. Those will be funded.
One other question I want to ask you about before we get to what's next for you in the district. There's been obviously some conversation recently in Missouri between different things passed for the city of Kansas City becoming a sanctuary city or a haven city for people in search of transgender healthcare versus what the state itself is doing. Where do you come down? I mean, I know you're a federal official versus a state official, but where do you come down on that conversation?
Can you repeat that? Because it sounds a little muffled on your end. I just want to make sure I get the question right.
Transgender healthcare and people who are seeking transgender healthcare whenever they are gender conforming healthcare, that kind of thing. For minors, especially, is how Missouri decided to say this is not going to be available in the state of Missouri. Kansas City saying we are going to be able to have that and get that haven city almost classification. Where do you come down on what those rights and healthcare affordability should be?
So the question was on healthcare and where do I stand on healthcare?
On trans rights specifically, on trans healthcare, people seeking gender affirming healthcare.
Well, look, the healthcare system in America is broken. Obamacare is not working. The original sign up for Obamacare didn't work. We've got to make sure that, especially mental health care issues, I am a big believer, and I've said this during the campaign, we need a better mental health care system in this nation. I just talked with an officer from Archie, Missouri, who came up here. We just finished our office hours here at our Raymore office. They are taking dozens of calls each week, if not each day, on mental health issues. And this is an issue that we've seen play out all over the country. We're seeing it here. Fentanyl crisis, illegal drugs coming up from Mexico, manufactured in China. We have that crisis, and we have the mental health crisis in America. We need to fully fund mental health in America and try to figure out how to get us back on track.
But as far as transgender care and having that for that community, the gender affirming care, no take on whether that should be available to all Missourians or not?
Should gender affirming care
Be
be
available?
funded?
The Missouri legislature just last week approved the ban on gender affirming care for minors in the state. And then Kansas City turned around and passed a policy offering a safe haven to those people seeking that kind of care. No take on that difference?
Well, look, I'm going to stay out of the business of Kansas City, Missouri. I do not agree with the city in a lot of ways. On a federal level, we have not addressed that issue yet. It is a state's issue that the state does not believe that it should be happening. I believe the so-called gender affirming care is not a good deal for our young children. We need better counseling. We need certainly parental improvement. But again, this goes to the mental health care issues that we're facing in America. If we get the mental health care that people need, if they get the services they need, I don't think we're going to be in a position where we're trying to legislate whether someone should have a life-altering surgery, especially as a minor.
Last question, Congressman. What's next for you in the district? Is there something you talked a lot about agriculture whenever you were running and making sure you got on the agriculture committee? Obviously, we're getting into a time for the farming community during the summer where that's a big part for a lot of people in your district and across the state. What's next that you're looking forward to potentially for your district?
Well, this is a very busy time for us in the 4th Congressional District of Missouri. We are on the House Armed Services Committee. I'm on the Sea Power Committee. We are making sure that we are staying lethal and strong as a nation to deter the pacing threat from communist China. We may not have that long before they start invading Taiwan, and we've got to make sure that we have the forces ready. I am on the Personnel Subcommittee where we are trying to increase recruitment and decrease people leaving the Army. We want better retention in the armed services. The Marines was the only branch of our service that met their recruitment goal last year. And why is that? Why is it that only 9% of our young people have any interest in joining the military? I think it's because the left is so demonized America. They've made our founding fathers into demons and not heroes that they are. They have really instilled in our young people a sense of disloyalty for our country in a lot of ways, that capitalism is not good, that socialism is a preferred method. And so we are going to continue to fight for America, to try to instill pride in our country and to try to inspire people to greatness. Another thing we're trying to do on the House Ag Committee as we work through the 2023 Farm Bill, this is going to be a huge bill. 82% approximately will be on the supplemental nutritional programs. We are working on that right now to make sure that number one, our farmers and ranchers have the safety net that they need to do business. So we don't have 1,000 farmers a month in America calling it quits. Food security is national security. We also want to make sure that our children are healthy and fed well. And we also want to make sure that we're good stewards of God's creation. So we're working on programs like the SHOP Act, where right now you cannot buy on the prescription produce plan, or in some cases the SNAP program, frozen fruits and veggies. And in this day and age, when parents are on the go who use the SNAP program, we need to be able to use practical things like a frozen bag of green beans that you can cut open at night, serve those up to your kids and put the rest back in the freezer. So you don't have to go get fresh green beans ever so often. So just practical things like that, where we're moving forward, trying to get the Farm Bill through. The other issue that we're working on right now is we're on the Small Business Committee, and we are working on that committee to try to get the woke out of the Small Business Administration. There are a lot of things that are tied to different ESI scores and DEI scores that shouldn't be. We should be able to get the money to the people who are trying to start up their businesses and not tie it to these left programs.
I have to ask, just because you use the word, I like to ask whenever I hear it. When you use the word woke, when someone asks you what that means to you, what does the word woke mean to you when you're describing some of these situations?
Well, this came up about 5 years ago. I started hearing this term. And back then, no one used the term. Woke is the system by which they are trying to recalibrate and look through the lens of what our nation is all about. That a certain segment of our nation is evil and a certain set is good. Some are victims, some are victors. We are all victors. We live in the greatest nation known to man. And we all have something to contribute. We are a nation of legal immigrants who work together in the fabric of this nation to build something great. And we need to get back to that. We need to start inspiring people to greatness once again, instead of tearing each other down and making some victims and some victors. We are all in this together.
That's all I needed. Thank you for your time this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Taylor. Take care.
Yes, sir. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.